Dan, how many people walk into your office and think that you have a giant mural of Peyton Manning behind you and not realize that's you?
Is that mankind?
It is mankind. Yeah.
Mick Foley.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, I think everybody actually walks into this office and thinks I am and Peyton Manning the same person.
Billy, I'm going to do it to you.
What?
Billy thinks Kirk Cousins is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Do you agree?
Yeah, totally. Why not? No. Obviously, I think Kirk's a good player, has moments of really good. I actually became a little bit of a bigger fan of Kirk, post that whole quarterback thing on Netflix. The thing about Kirk, it's like the opposite of Dak Prescott in a way. Like I feel everybody wants Dak Prescott to be the player that he is as a person, and so like he's such a good guy and has such an incredible reputation. They're like, well, he's such a great player. No, he's just been good for his career. And Kirk is like so uniquely, and I say this in admiration, dorky and, Ned Flanders-ish that everyone's like, well, he can never be a good player because he's so dorky, So first ballot Hall of Famer person, but not football player, no.
Well done.
I have to ask you, I was so blown away by your Stephen A. Smith impression. I just was. I'm just going to beg you to just answer this one question as Stephen A. Smith, if you would.
Yeah.
Biggest disappointment team so far this NFL season and the most pleasant surprise team?
Yeah, the biggest disappointing team is I got to go the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions. The expectation, Jared Goff and you see, no. So I just say that because last week Stephen A. had them as the number one team in the NFL.
I know.
So,
right, yeah.
And he would say like the biggest surprise, the Minnesota Vikings, because they won last night.
Prisoner of the moment is what you're saying, Orlovsky.
Yeah. I mean, we're all victim to it. I always make fun of him when he goes, his top 5 teams in the NFL. I'm like, you just picked the 5 good teams that won last weekend. That's kind of the model.
Right.
If I was Stephen A., his most disappointing team this year, he would probably, knowing how Stephen A. is and he's unbelievable at his job, he would pick like a team that's good but not good enough right now. So like maybe he would probably go like the New York Jets,
right.
Out disregarding the Aaron Rodgers injury. And then it said like, his biggest surprise would be like, not the Kansas City Chiefs, and we would all be like, what?
You're not going to answer it, though. I think Greg wanted you to answer, like your answer in Stephen A.'s voice. I mean,
all right, my answer.
It's tough.
Right.
I know. You're not a piano bar. I mean, you're just not.
Yeah. My most surprising team in the NFL this year, in a good way, I'll like say in a good way, not in a disappointing way yet. My most surprising in a good way, Baltimore. I go by divisions because I got a small brain, so it's like by divisions. You know what? I'll say the Los Angeles Rams, even though they lost last weekend. I still think the Rams are like going to be in the conversation. No one. I honestly thought that they would be in the conversation for Caleb Williams. Like, hey, Matthew, I know there were trade conversations, whether it came from the Rams or other teams. Like they are still a really competitive football team. And even like they lose last weekend, but it's more so, Pittsburgh made some plays at the end of the game. I think the Rams are going to be in the conversation. I really do, getting into December. I don't know if I'm saying no question playoff team, but I do believe that they're going to be into that playoff football team conversation. Most disappointing right now, I still say the Giants. And I love Brian Dable. I'm a massive fan of Brian Dable. I thought that Daniel would play better than he did last year. I thought the offensive line would be better. The Waller trade, he would be featured in their offense. We haven't seen that. Now there's questions, are they better with Tyrod Taylor than Daniel? The defense is finally playing. I had thought that they would have the chance to contend for a playoff spot, or be the second best team in that division. And even though they won last week, and I still sit there and I go, I'm surprised that they're not better.
I found it.
Great.
It was Dan saying that you don't have to take a shower right when I get out of the pool every time.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you can, I'll shower later this evening.
The pool is a shower.
Right. It's
Yes,
just like people were shaming him. It was just a total reasonable take by Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that one. We just closed the pool yesterday, so can't do that anymore. Going to have to shower pretty readily now. But.
How do you feel about peeing in the pool?
Let it ride, baby.
I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest with you. Obviously, I've done it many a times. I've done it as an adult.
But
as
when
well.
you do it, you're like, I'm not feeling good about myself right now.
Also, why you need to take a shower.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
But chlorine and salt kill that.
Right.
Better point. To be honest with you, ever since the movie Grown Ups and Kevin James has the moment when he pees in the pool and the blue
green
stuff gets out.
Blue, yeah.
I always like let a little bit out and just to see like, all right, is that a real thing? And then if not, I'll let it fly.
It's a painful game.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you don't want to be that person.
Right.
Have you ever washed your hair in the pool like me?
You're so weird, Dad.
With soap?
Yeah, not a public pool. Like
You're getting soap in the pool
After a round of golf,
Or
this man has jumped into the pool with after a round of golf and then just has shampoo right there.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
I love you.
Yeah, a little dollop of shampoo.
I feel like you do that in a lake, though, not a pool.
Little dab will do you.
Yeah.
It all works.
Yeah.
I would probably shy away from that one. You know what? One thing I don't get about people in pools, how often people, and more often than not, they look like me, let their dogs just swim in the pool.
It's a great take. You're right. Yes.
Like, what kind of dog just like, they're like, oh, the dogs are in the pool. I'm like, that's disgusting. They're going to shed all over the place. Your kids are going to jump in or you're going to jump in. You're going to have dog hair all over you.
House
it's like,
is going to get gross.
Right.
It's gross, man. I don't get it.
Right. But urine's not. Anyway. Yeah.
Dan, before we get back to football, I need to ask you about Fessy.
I can't look at you.
Why? Are you a Challenge purist or do you watch the spin-offs? Did you watch the Challenge USA? Because I really want to talk to you about Fessy.
I haven't seen the last season or two of the Challenge. I know Fessy I saw him trending like a week or two, I think. I want to say.
He's a slam ball guy now.
Like legit slam ball?
Yeah, he plays for some team at slam ball. He had another classic Fessy blunder in the final on the Challenge USA where you win an advantage, you get to take a shortcut. He did not win the advantage, took the shortcut anyways, and then he ended up getting eliminated in the final yet again.
Did he do the shortcut, or did he take the shortcut unknowingly, or did he do it like thinking he could get away with it?
No, he did it because he's Fessy, and he didn't realize that he was going the wrong way. So he ran an extra mile and a half in the wrong direction, and then they sent him back. He got eliminated.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Shocker.
Classic.
All bark, no bite. That's what I don't know the dude, obviously, but like, he's the classic person on that show of like, talk is so much bigger than the actual result.
Wow.
Dan, you said yesterday that the Browns should reach out to the Vikings regarding Kirk Cousins. And I am wondering, have you changed? Like, Kirk Cousins is not going anywhere now, right?
I don't know if you're Minnesota and you're trying to be, have like foreshadowing and look at the future. I think Minnesota's biggest question going forward, and I said this 2 weeks ago, is like, how do they keep Justin Jefferson? That's going to be their biggest challenge. And I don't believe that they are going to be able to do it just because of money. Everyone's going to pay Justin Jefferson if he ever gets to the market. So it's not we'll give him a contract. Anyone is going to do that. So I think for Justin Jefferson, at least if I was him, I'd go, well, I want to know who's going to be the quarterback here and who's going to be the quarterback for the long term. And he might sit there and say, well, I'm cool with it being Kirk Cousins. He might not. I don't know. But Minnesota, do they organizationally want that? And so I sit there and I go like, that's more important than who's, where they are right now with Kirk Cousins, or can they become a fringe playoff team? They have to figure out what's the plan at quarterback for the future. Now, maybe organizationally, they sit there and say the plan is to re-sign Kirk Cousins. And if that's going to keep Justin Jefferson, great. So I just say, like, if you're one of those teams, you have to call. I don't know the likelihood of it, and I know that Kirk has the no trade clause. I'm aware of all that. But if the Vikings have made up the decision that, well, we're not going to pay Kirk the X amount of dollars that likely he's going to command, or we want to go younger because of where Kirk is in his career or whatnot, then it's reasonable to think if another team calls, like the Cleveland Browns, and everyone, I'm aware of Deshaun Watson's contract. I know there's a gajillion dollars left for his contract. He's not going anywhere, but he's not playing good, and he's not healthy right now. And so this is a football team that can run the ball. They're really well coached. I'm a huge Kevin Stefanski guy. Their defense is off the charts good. make the call and see if there's even a 5% chance of at least starting the conversation and seeing if there's what it would potentially cost.
A quick question about high draft quarterbacks. Number one, is it time to say maybe the Dolphins didn't make a mistake taking Tua ahead of Justin Herbert? And to the present day, C.J. Stroud looking better than Bryce Young. Is it too soon to say Carolina maybe made a mistake?
Yeah, I think it's too soon, but it is very fair to say that C.J. is playing significantly better than Bryce Young. Now, I don't usually, like, when I talk about quarterbacks, I'll be like, man, this guy's got really good help around him. This guy doesn't. I don't know if Houston has that much more help around C.J. Stroud than Bryce Young does. I do think Nico Collins is playing awesome and Tank Dell is playing awesome. Also, obviously, Dalton Schultz has become a good player, but they've lost some people on their offensive line. He's played with backup offensive linemen. Like, you could just cut on C.J. Stroud's tape. I've said C.J. looks like a young Joe Burrow with the way that he's seeing it, the way that the ball's coming out of his hands, the different types of throws, the placement of those throws. So I think it's okay for us to be like, yeah, right now C.J. looks like the better player. I still think Bryce is going to be a very, very good pro. But they, and I said this when I called their game, like 36-month window. Here's the thing with Tua and Justin Herbert. I was team Tua from the jump. I've always been team Tua. Calling their games in college and just watching how they played the position, I thought Tua was, like he had this PhD in quarterbacking. I think the difference with where they are in their careers right now, Justin's a superstar talent, and has had tons of highs in the NFL. Tua, superstar talent. They're different players stylistically. The thing that I do think Tua has that Justin doesn't have right now, and it shows itself, is Tua has the ability to be way more feel-based in football. Way more nuance-based, meaning I know, like, move that defender and throw it before he's actually moving to a window that's going to be there. The different type of trajectory on throws. Justin, and this was my sticking point with Justin Herbert in college, and it hasn't necessarily changed a ton, is while he's remarkably physically talented, there is a little bit of like robotics to his game. You know, if you watch a ton of his throws, I call them flat. Like, everything it feels like is like Ichiro from right field. You know, and sometimes it's like I needed 10% less of juice on that ball to get it there, or that right throw. So still think Justin's a superstar. I do. I just think, Tua has got a little bit more quarterback feel and nuance to his game that kind of separates him for me.
All right, we'll have one more segment here with Dan Orlovsky. We'll do it right after this. All right, we're back with Dan Orlovsky, who was telling us funny stories about Jeff Saturday, who is a cruel individual. Dan, please share that. Please share that audience. Please share with the audience the story you just told us about the former head coach of the Indianapolis Colts.
The former head coach. I love it. You guys asked me, like, do people walk into the office and think this is a giant mural of Peyton Manning? And I'm like, yeah, everyone thinks I'm Peyton Manning. And I was like, I love when Saturdays on Tuesday morning get-ups and, he'll kind of talk about 2011, Peyton didn't play. He's like, oh, my gosh, we were terrible that year. And I'm like, Jeff, I was the starter in 5 of those games. So can you have some sympathy towards the quarterback that was there with you?
Has he stopped doing it? I mean,
no, it's almost like every Tuesday. I feel like it's a strategic thing from Jeff. Now, hey, remember when Peyton didn't play in the Colts and we sucked?
Right. It's so great. Help me out with this. Kyle Shanahan seems to be a coach that avoids criticism. Why?
Because he's awesome. And he's taken so many different styles of players and been really good with them and really successful with them. I mean, think about it. He's taken RG3. Obviously, RG3 was an amazing talent, but RG3, rookie of the year, and Washington was all of a sudden somehow into a high-level conversation playoff football team. And then he's taken Kirk Cousins and led that to become a playoff football team. And then even in Cleveland, he had Johnny Manziel being like, like maybe Johnny Manziel is going to become a good player in the NFL. There was like a 6-week stretch where he started to play good. And then he goes to Atlanta with Matt Ryan and takes him as an MVP, and they go to the Super Bowl. And then he goes to San Francisco and he's taking Jim. he's taken like these guys that I guess outside of Matt Ryan didn't have. Again, RG3 was a high draft pick, but RG3 took the NFL by storm. Kirk Cousins was a fourth round pick who become like a really good starter. Johnny Manziel, I talked about that stretch. Matt Ryan won MVP and goes to the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo, a second-round pick, goes to the Super Bowl, and then now Brock Purdy. He wins a ton. Whether as an assistant coach or a head coach, he's taken a bunch of different quarterbacks and made them really good. The creativity of their offense is always incredibly unique. So I think that like sometimes he gets criticized in the playoffs. Excuse me, but. The proof is in the pudding, man. He can coach.
Dan, I thought Hard Knocks in season made a perfect choice with the Miami Dolphins. Is there a team that you find even more interesting that you'd like to see on that show?
I agree. I think the Dolphins, because of how big their season's going to be, it looks like, and then obviously Mike McDaniel and Tua and Tyreek Hill. I don't think there's a team that I find more interesting or more willing to be interesting. I think a lot of teams in the NFL can be interesting. I don't know how many of them are willing to be as interesting as we want them to be.
Yes, great point.
And it's comfortable. Like Mike McDaniel comes off as like wildly comfortable in who he is and what's he about. I would have thought maybe the Rams, because of how young some of their stars are and how well they're playing. Jacksonville, although Trevor is so buttoned up, like Trevor, not that Tua is not buttoned up, but Doug Peterson's really buttoned up. Trevor Lawrence is really buttoned up because I think Jacksonville's going to be in the conversation as this season goes on. Maybe Cincinnati, just because I'm a huge Burrow guy, but I think Miami's going to be a fascinating watch.
What happened to your Lions over the weekend?
They got their butts kicked.
They did. And Dan Campbell loved it. Dan Campbell loved it, and that's what I love about Dan Campbell.
Football happened.
Here's my thing. Like, when last week everyone was saying that they were the best team in the NFL, you were just like, I was just like, I think they're a good football team. I think they're a really good team. I think they can kind of play and beat anybody. But say they're the best team in the NFL was a little bit ridiculous to me. It just as if we're being real and not trying to like take wise. Jared had been playing awesome. The offensive line had been playing awesome. Here's what happened. The offense could not get a first down. They couldn't get into any form of a rhythm play calling wise because they couldn't gather a first down. I think second of all, defensively, it almost looked like they weren't even prepared for Lamar. Like their first touchdown, it's 4th and 1. Lamar could have scored from 1,000 yards. We didn't have any eyes on Lamar or responsibility, and their pass rush got a little exposed from Baltimore's offensive line. So they just got whooped, and it snowballed. That happens sometimes. I don't think that the Lions were exposed. I just think they caught the Ravens on a really good day, and they played about as bad as we've seen them play in a year.
All right, we're going to get you out of here. We appreciate the time. Peeing in the shower, yes or no?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Right. Sometimes if you're not taking a shower, correct? You just pee in the shower.
What?
Yeah. I mean, it's just
I've done that.
Yeah, so
I've done that.
So we've all done it. Yeah.
You want to know a really interesting shower thing to me, and I don't get it, and Marcus tells me it's like a cultural thing. When I go to obviously we travel a ton. You're at this hotel. Marcus brings like sandals to shower in. What? I just step in the shower. Yeah, he will not step in a public like a hotel shower unless he has his sandals with him. So he travels with sandals, shower shoes, flip-flops to go shower on. And he thinks it's disgusting if I shower in the Marriott Hotel.
It's weird.
I mean, people are peeing in the shower there. So.
Yeah. Right, definitely there.
It's my feet.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
I'm not licking my feet. Like,
is it a part of your body?
Oh,
but
Roy,
like, yes, but
Roy, you
I don't
step
really
in there.
touch it ever.
You go in there without sandals, Roy. Come on.
Come on, Roy.
I'm not using shower shoes. I'm just saying I understand his concept.
I don't.
You understand.
But do you look at me as a less of a person if I don't wear shower shoes?
No, I'm saying I understand what he's talking about.
What's the Halloween costume this year for Dan Orlovsky?
Oh, we don't have one. This is the first year our kids are kind of like too cool for school. So
that sucks.
They're 11 now, so they think they're 25 years old. So I don't have one, but I'll just steal their candy.
All right. Hey, we appreciate the time, man. Thank you for doing this. We'll talk to you soon.
Later, guys.
All right, later.
Greg, you have 15 seconds to plug the Greg Cody Show with Greg Cody.
Wow.
Oh, it's a big episode. We have a new Greg Doesn't Know Movies.
Wow.
We talk about I call my wife. I call her baby. Hey, baby.
Find
which I
out if
never
Greg
do,
Cody
and
can name 5 animated movies.
That too.